I suppose this afternoon, just to recap on what we're going to cover, we have 2 expert inputs, and then we're going to have a panel, a legal panel, looking at the voice of the child in family law proceedings, and that will be led by the Ombudsman for Children, and the Minister for Justice will be arriving as well. So just to remind you to tweet, we have 2 hashtags, the voice of the child and the COE Pres IRL, the Council of Europe hashtag, so please do remember to tweet. So what I'm going to do is pass off then to our first expert, Barbara Németh of the Hintalovan Child Rights Foundation in Hungary, to address the audience. And Barbara is a psychologist herself. She's been leading some research in this space, particularly around child participation and decision-making, and she's going to talk about the results of that. And I think that's a really great way to start the afternoon, bringing it back to the voice of the child and how we can embed it and support it in decision-making. So Barbara, over to you.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I am a messenger. I'm here to represent children's views. I'm not an elected or an appointed representative, but in the last month, together with my Hungarian, Portuguese, and Italian colleagues, I've had many conversations with children who are personally affected in parental separation cases or care proceedings, or who know a lot about this because their friends or close relatives are affected in this. So I'm here to talk about this. After the initiative of Council of Europe, we hold consultations in 3 countries to ensure that children's views are taken into account in the development of the new standards on child rights in family proceedings. And I'm really honored by the trust that I received from children to be here today and present their feedback to you, to the stakeholders, to decision makers, to professionals. So I try my best to summarize their points and our impressions. This year, between May and July, we consulted 9 groups of children in person with the participation of 59 children. They were 7 to 19 years old, so most of them were teenagers. And my organization, Hintalovan Child Rights Foundation, coordinated and supported this process and facilitated the consultation itself in Hungary. In Portugal, they were implemented by the National Commission for the Promotion of the Rights and the Protection of Children and Young People. And in Italy, the Authority for Children and Adolescents organized these sessions. In total, 24 focus group consultations were held. We met the groups several times, 1 to 5 times, so we had enough time to go into deeper conversations. And the discussion focused on parental separation in Hungary and in Italy, and it addressed care proceedings in Portugal. We tried to engage children in meaningful conversations, so we kept the methodology very flexible, because we wanted children to really expressing their own ideas. We also had some questions regarding the draft of these new standards, but the goal was not to get feedback actually about the text, but rather to give a space to children to express their own ideas. Therefore, we used a variety of non-formal educational tools and techniques, and each consultations were led by two experienced facilitators, and we paid particular attention to child safeguarding issues already from the design to the implementation. Well, to the best of our knowledge, this was the very first time that in Europe, at least, we had the opportunity to focus on children's views in this particular matter within the theme of child-friendly justice. If you look at the literature, you will find some publications which summarizes the main points of individual interviews with children, focusing on their own personal stories. That's not what we do. We involve children kind of as advisor, as consultant to this process, to draft these recommendations. And so children focused on their needs, on their rights, on the practices and the policies, what they experienced. So in relation to parental separation and care proceedings, we discussed what aspects should adults take into account when considering the best interest of the child. What should be the role of children? How actively do they want to be involved? How should the judge take the child's opinion into account? What information do children need? Who could they turn to for help? And who are those trusted adults that can support children in these contexts? Before going into the details, let me just highlight you our main impressions from this. Firstly, that separation from parents is primarily an emotional process for children and not a legal process. It is generally a difficult and unpleasant time for them, and the legal proceeding is just a tiny part of this. So some of their negative feelings come from their encounters with the justice system or the child protection system, but some come from the family settings, from their fear of the relationship with these relatives and important people, and to a lesser extent from their anxiety about the future. But they refer a lot of time to their family. And when we discussed this whole topic, it was our task to divert the discussion back to the legal proceedings, because they naturally they are about to talk about the family matters, what happens back at home. Secondly, the children live in the present. Well, everyone lives in the present, you could say, but perhaps children, even more than adults, they care about the little things that make their life easier in the present, in the here and now, and they are more influenced by what they experience at that moment, or about their current fears. What will my father say to this in the afternoon? What will happen next? So it is very important. It was said before, it was mentioned that proceedings can last for years and months. There's a lot of time, but what happens in the meantime? Children, when we are talking about the best interest of children, they really care about every minute. So even when they are in the limbo of, in between any institution and parent family setting. So when we understandably think about children's future, when we make decisions about them, we should really keep in mind that the present matters too. And thirdly, that children need empowerment. So they need empowerment to be able to speak on their own behalf. Because it was mentioned here that children emphasize about the social worker, but they really care about the well-being of the parent and the well-being of their relative. So we should take extra effort that they could really focus on themselves. When we engage them in discussions, we realize that they are not representing themselves. They are talking about the parents, and they are caring about the parents' well-being. Now, we are interested in you. So it was again and again a reoccurring task that, okay, I understand, but now we are interested in your own opinion. So let's go in some details. So when it comes to the determination of children's best interests, children want adults to understand them, and they stressed the individual analysis of the situation of each child. Well, it was said several times today, but it requires that we can slow down and we take the courage to understand them. It requires the hearing of their opinion attentively and respectfully, but they stressed that it also means that we also pay attention to their actions and attitudes. So not only what they say, but how they behave. They called attention that age and maturity are not the same, that adults should understand their need for a certain amount of stability during these changing times. Everything is changing, so they really need some stability. And in case of care proceedings, the geographical distance of the place where the family resides to the care institution, alongside with the job schedule of the relatives, should be also taken into account. Children also expressed that adults shouldn't judge them, but should make, they said, adults should make the effort to be calmer, be more patient, and give more affection. Children highlighted that professionals need to consider the alternatives carefully when they make decisions. So it means that we should imagine how would their life look like if we go in this or that direction, and think about the profile of the professionals who are waiting for them in this and that setting, especially in care proceedings. It was really important for them that how these professionals, social workers, and caregivers understand them, how they behave with them. And it was a very strong message that identifying the best interests of the children doesn't necessarily mean that they will be well. I think it is really important that we pay attention to this difference. So they outlined that the best interests of the children are not equal to their well-being, and said that adults shouldn't mind the rules and regulations more than they care if children or young people are okay. I think that's really important. So best interests are not equal, they said. It's not equal to hiding the truth. It's not equal to giving the impression that everything is okay when actually nothing is okay. These are particularly important because, as one Hungarian child said, the court doesn't focus on the best interest of the child, but on the lesser of two evils. So what should be the role of children? How actively do they want to be involved? How should the judge take their opinion into account? In general, children felt involved in these situations, but not actually listened to. They are comfortable with different level of involvement, and it varies. It varies not only individually, but also over time, which is very challenging from our adult perspective. But they had a motivation of not trying to cause any trouble for the parent. I think we should remember that. So that is it is a big motivation behind their involvement or behind their willingness to be involved. And that their free expression of their views is very difficult for them. They said that adults shouldn't assume that children have a well-established opinion about their parents' divorce or how to organize their life. They need to be supported in forming their views and paying attention to their emotions. Children often experience a compulsion to choose, but they express that they want not to be put under pressure and highlighted that they shouldn't be burdened with the responsibility of the decision. It was really clear that it was. They expressed really clearly that it is not the intention that a child should make a decision. They expressed that they are aware that the court covers more ground and knows more about the proceedings and the situation. They felt that children's opinions are often uncertain, change, and are subject to influence. But they stressed that if for any given reason they have a strong opinion, a strong and solid opinion, it should be given more weight, and their reasoning and arguments are also very important. So we can say that children realize that their own opinion are not equal to their best interest all the time. This quote from a Portuguese child illustrates how difficult it is to speak up. Well, I also want to stay with my father. I went to the court seat and they wrote it down and my mother was upset with us. Why don't they, the professionals, keep secrets? The girl said. This quote also points to our next topic, the role of information. Children found preparation for legal proceedings crucial, both practically but also emotionally. Among others, children highlighted that they would like to know in advance what is about to happen. They want to know what influence they have on certain events. How do the professionals use their opinion, and what are their options? Is it black or white or not? Children stressed, I think it's really important, the need to be sure whether telling the truth is harmful for them or not, because, as they said, children may have been taught that it is better to keep quiet regarding family matters. Children express that formal encounters are emotionally upsetting for them, preventing them from paying attention to information, even if the professional uses a child-friendly language. They compared hearings and these encounters to school exams, where they feel like they are judged. They or their families are judged. So they express that they need clear reassurance that their best interests are guiding every person or this process. They often hear this reference that, okay, I do this for you, I care about you, it's about you, but we need to explain them and convince them, not just verbally, but over time with our attitude and our presence and attention, that we really care about them. Children prefer to have more opportunities to gather information in different forms and also from different persons, different people. And they said that parents are key, even if they can be impartial in this process. Children see it also favorably if there is a constant person, a professional who can accompany them through this whole process and is present or accessible during the whole time. Children found the written paper leaflets also useful because they can read it later at their convenience and at their own pace. And they highlighted that they can be overwhelmed by getting lots of information at the same time. So they prefer to receive information gradually. Yeah, and I brought a quote from an Italian participant who said that we are often not informed about the consequences. Lastly, we discussed that who could or who would children turn to for help. And it was very moving and very sad that in general, children really simply didn't feel that there are adults around them who actually and specifically looking out for their feelings and for their well-being. Children wish to talk to someone about the situation. They would like to have someone around who provides them emotional security as well. They concluded that it was not much the position, but the attitude that matters. So it's not about the profession. It can be anyone, basically. They really care about the person, the human being. Children would need a person who supports them and doesn't want to solve their problems. They emphasize that they certainly doesn't want someone feeling sorry for them. They need someone who is not biased and capable of objectivity. In general, it is difficult for children to ask for help from adults. They would like to have more control, more decision regarding when and how they want to ask for help. They want a supporting expert from whom they could get to know at the beginning and would be there in the whole time. They called this person, I like this phrase, a comfort person who would function as an information hub as well. When parents separate or when children separate from parents, they experience obviously many changes in their life. So having a stable person who are accessible and attentive would make a difference for them. Okay. Yes. This is particularly important because of this quote that we can read. Maybe I won't read that now. Okay, we might find ourselves alone in a new city, different, unknown, maybe distant, with a different language. We should change network, communities, friends, school, routines, neighborhood to which we are linked. So yes, they experience a lot of changes. Yeah, so in sum, I think we can conclude that children's rights matter all the time, before, during, and after the legal proceedings. So in children's eyes, best interest determination is not just about the court decision. They really care about every moment and they want to be well and every time. So when we are talking about best interest determination, it is not just about one moment or one decision, and it is not just about the decision of a judge. We are all responsible. We who are around children, we are also responsible for their rights. It is a very delicate thing and can be changing over time. So children also emphasized the role of the review of a decision and review of their best interests. I think it's really important that we adopt a trauma, as it was mentioned before, a trauma-informed approach to reach this. So what could be taken as recommendations? In general, it was really nice to see that how easy it was to engage children in this consultation process. They felt really so liberating and encouraging to have the attention of adults. They kept talking and talking and talking. So we could be sure that children felt heard and empowered, and they are really motivated to participate in further consultation. So organization of any further consultation would be really beneficial, including those in vulnerable contexts. The development of anonymous feedback mechanism would be also could be also considered. So, when we go where children are, and not when we invite children to come to us, but when we meet them at their own place. Improving the preventive services where families receive support, both mental, social, of both mental and social nature, would be also very important. If you remember, I said a lot of things, children express a lot of things that has nothing, you could say that I have nothing to do with that. It's not my job to provide emotional security for a child because, I'm working at the court job. It's not my competence. Yes, it is true. That's why it is really important to cooperate with other sectors and to also to invest in preventive strategies. It was really striking that how children think about these alternative forms of family. There are stigma towards different family settings. So even encouraging action to change the general the general thinking about these family settings would be important. Multi-sector approach, I mentioned that also in the trainings, in conferences like this, and in trainings as well, and of course, anything that we can do to provide more child-friendly and user-friendly information would be really would make a difference. We shouldn't only address children, we have to create and promote user-friendly version of the draft recommendations, what you did. I'm not a lawyer. I also find it sometimes difficult to read all these messages, and we want social workers, psychologists, and those people around them to actually implement your guidance. So it's important that we not just address children with that, but parents and anyone in an understandable way. Yeah, so I'm really thankful for this opportunity for the Council of Europe and for anyone who invests in learning about the views of children. I will definitely transfer the message to them after this conference that I've met so many professionals, so many stakeholders, decision makers who really care about their opinion and well-being. But I also encourage you that we empower our own colleagues to do the same and slow down a little bit and actually listen to their opinion, listen to children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara, for that input. I think it was a perfect way to start the afternoon with the experiences of young people through the system. And you can see real parallels of what you heard earlier on. Delays have a huge effect on a child. Childhood is so short, that's really clear. But I have to say, it's really striking, this group of young people from across these different countries all saying they felt no one was thinking about their well-being in this process. And I know for my team working on our helpline, one of the things that they find very frustrating is this is one of the areas they find it very hard to help young people that call us. Because the families are in conflict with each other and often they disagree with the course of action. So nothing happens to resolve the issue for the child. So that's something we actually have to address. It's just not good enough that it's difficult to deal with. We have to find a way forward. And obviously the best interest principle, voice of the child, these legal principles can take us there.